Hey everybody, happy Sunday, April 26th, I think. It's Arbor Day here in the US, and I wanted to record a longer video with, well, I want to, because I will, record a longer video just talking about the different tree plans and tree systems that I'm putting in here at our farm and garden. But I've actually been out just planting a bunch today, and I've also got a boatload of feed that I need to go ahead and get put in the cans tonight and get that finished up. Actually, let me flip the camera around. So I'm going to turn around. I wanted to sit for this, but I'm going to turn around so that you can see the nice view that I've got. If we're going to talk about trees, it'd be nice to have a nice background. There we go. So that looks a lot better. Excuse me. So, the best thing that I could say on Arbor Day, the best piece of advice or hope or entertainment or interesting thing I can say is you should look up a book, and you can get a PDF of it online for free. Just Google it. You can also buy a softback copy of it or a hardback copy or Kindle or any of that. But it's a book written, I think, in 1929 by a guy named J Russel Smith. And the book is called Tree Crops. And I think the subtitle is Permanent Agriculture. And briefly, Smith wrote this book in advance of the Dust Bowl and seeing kind of the degradation of the farming Midwest brought about by tillage, which is the way that we produce pretty much all of our annual crops right now. You till the soil, you dig down, you bust it up, and it's great for a little while, but you're constantly depleting the soil and releasing just boatloads of carbon, which is what makes the soil really good, by the way. But J. Russell Smith was concerned about tillage and clearing land in order to make way for these annual crops that required an awful lot of attention. And he wrote this book, Tree Crops, with the premise. It's a fascinating book, and it's a short read. It is not long at all. There's maybe one or three chapters introduction that are just kind of him laying out his thesis, which is actually really inspiring. And then the whole rest of the book is just profiles of different trees and the crops that could be harvested from them, and the livestock and other products that could be made from them. So it's a great book, but his central premise is we should be planting trees and relying on their crops more than we rely on annual crops. So annuals, especially today, you think about corn and wheat and soybeans, from which, we get flour and animal feed and corn syrup and tons of starches and lots of industrial food products. And J. Russell Smith was saying, we can get flour from acorns and chestnuts. We can get oil from chestnuts. We can get oil from bitternut hickory, pig nuts. Just feed for cattle with a really high sugar content from something like honey locusts. It was a really amazing idea that was put forward, 100 years ago. But, the great thing about planting trees is that they need less and less attention the older they get, not more. A little bit at the beginning to get them started, but once they go, you're looking at, in the case of some fruit trees, decades, in the case of other fruit trees, more than a century, and in the case of nut-bearing or timber trees, you're looking at centuries of life, centuries of harvest. You want to talk about planning for future generations. Trees do amazing things. They perform amazing functions for the world and everything in it. And the best thing I can do today is just really encourage you to check out that book. It is a short read. It is pretty fascinating. And to think that it was written 100 years ago today, not today, but 100 years ago, talking about the idea of using trees to get our crops. It's a really fascinating book, and it's not, it's not some kind of spiritual book. It's not some, granola hippie you know, kind of, we can get all we need from, you know, from hemp, man, which is probably true, by the way, but it's not like that. I think Smith worked for maybe the USDA as a plant researcher or as a plant finder. There's actually a really fascinating history of the USDA sending people out into the field in the early 1900s and late 1800s to collect apples and rice and wheat and all these things from all over the world to find strains that worked really well and that would improve our national food independence, which is actually really cool when you think about today in our age of complete and utter dependence on transnational corporations and you know, patented seeds and things like that. So anyhow, I hope that wherever you are having, have had, and will continue to have for many more years a fantastic Arbor Day. If you don't have a chance to plant a tree or some perennial today, that is okay. Do it tomorrow. You know, they say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is now. So I'll do a video later this week. Things have been pretty busy, but they're always busy. Talking about the different things that I've been planting here. Yes, we're setting up the market garden. We're actually putting in tomatoes this week, so that's exciting. But my background in permaculture and other stuff really has shown me to focus a lot on perennials, so I encourage you to as well. So that's my little Labor Day message. Take care. If you have questions, concerns, helpful comments, critiques, please post them below. And feel free to hit me up on Instagram and our Facebook page at Broad Shoulders Farm. And I'll catch y'all later. Plant trees, lots of them. Leave some, pay it forward, because we are the inheritors of a much impoverished world. And the more you learn about just the, I don't know, biological history of life and even just recent history, like 200 years in like America, like it's amazing what we had and what's been lost. And but you can remedy some of that by planting it forward. All right, take care. Bye-bye.